Hey, Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Jess. How are you doing?
Good. I want to talk, we're getting so close to spring, and sometimes for us, spring, we're outdoors more or we're changing things up. Maybe it's a time to change things. Maybe you want to be a reader. Maybe you want to read something new. So I thought we could share books that we have been reading, what's on our queue, what's been going up for us for reading lately.
So I didn't search this, but by the way, on the news, speaking of spring, on the news this morning, they had a thing that basically March 1st is meteorological spring. So I was like,
Oh,
what? I like that because I always feel like all the seasons, it would be great if they just, like, I feel like March is the first of spring. So why not just make March
yeah.
1st spring? So
No
maybe think
kidding. Yeah.
about how are we defining spring and what's going on
Yes,
there?
that's
And
so
anyway,
true.
so I've been reading a ton this year
Mm-hmm.
and for kind of been going back and forth, and I've really been using Goodreads a lot to recommend some stuff. But I did also go to a 50% off used bookstore day, and I picked up a lovely book. So like sometimes I feel like we're
Mm.
always feeling pressure to read the bestsellers and all the things because they're like supposed to be so good. And I picked up this book. It was historical fiction, World War II, and I was like, that is right up my alley. And it was called While Paris Slept, and I absolutely loved it. And I read the
Mm.
paper, like the book version. And I do so many audiobooks, Jess.
Yeah.
And I love this book so much that I am now really getting back into like physically reading books because I really
Mm-hmm.
just enjoy that so much more. I feel like I get more out of the book sometimes
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. Um, have been reading a lot. So I more during the day, like reading. So I listen to audiobooks when I'm driving in my car, and then I read on my Kindle before bed. So I'm
Now, are you
always,
reading two different books?
yeah, always reading
Okay.
two books.
Okay.
If not three. Because sometimes, like we talked before, like when you're reading a nonfiction book, sometimes it's heavy and you need to take a break. And so I have been reading on my Kindle more during the day instead of like watching TV or scrolling on social media or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some of the some of the books that I read, and I think I sent it to you that I just loved, and this is from my book of the month. So I get a lot of recommendations from the book of the month. Kelly, Where He Left Me by Nicole Bart, Baart, Where He Left Me. Ooh, that's a good book. I don't know how they describe it, but newlyweds move to a remote town, his childhood home, and he goes on a business trip and does not come back. And she is stuck in the snow, and some things
Oh,
happen, and you're like, what's going on? She is stuck with no electricity, no way to get to civilization, and so good. So I think you would really like that. And I love that one I read. But sometimes I don't think I listen to it. I don't know. But sometimes like I usually read lighter hearted books because before bed, I try to shift it. So, I love modern romance. And so this is from Libby. We also get our
mm,
books from Libby,
mm-hmm.
the Libby app, because then it's free and it's from the library and you get e-versions and audio versions. And this was an e-version and it's called A Bollywood Affair.
Oh, I've seen that one pop
And
up.
now I am like, there are new genres. Now I want to listen to modern romances globally from different cultures. So, this was like Indian culture, and I had to like Google what they were eating because food was a big part of this book. And so I was like Googling what this particular Indian food was. And then I'm like drooling while reading all the things. And then,
Oh,
it
that's
has you think, oh, I
awesome.
think I can make those. Oh, what's that? And so it's like, so that's my recommendation. If you love modern romance, that's a whole genre of like Bollywood romance or something. And so then they started popping up, right? Obviously, oh, you liked Bollywood, so now you need to read all these other books. And I really liked this author, and that's Sonali Dev, Sonalidev, and that was a delightful, fun read.
I've I've kind of go into so Goodreads has these like achievements where you get like bookmarks for certain
Yeah.
things, and so it really has influenced my reads in terms of the different choices because I definitely choose my own books too.
Yeah.
So in choosing my own books, I read Theo of Golden. It is a bestseller right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is written by Alan Levi, who is, or Levy. I'm going to go with Levi, Levi. And he is 68 years old and he's a first-time author.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is just a beautiful story, very heartwarming. You hug the book at the end. And I enjoyed it. I read it. I kind of like, you kind of like know where it's going in a lot of ways, but it's a very beautiful story. And then I watched Katie Couric chose it as a book club book for her. And so she did a book club video and she interviewed him and it was an hour-long video. And like, it was so awesome to like listen to the author and hear his story about how he arrived. It was like just so interesting to me. I absolutely loved it. It made me love the story more, and I know he's got a sequel. A couple other books that I love so far this year. I did read a fun little romance called The Stranger I Wed, which was really fun. It was a slow burn romance, which I think are the romances I like, Jess.
Okay.
And then I'm kind of all over the place on reading. I just finished. Have you read The Stardust Thief?
I don't think so.
It is a retelling of Arabian Nights, and it's newer, and it's more of a, what would be the word? It's like a fantasy mix.
Okay.
But it's an adventure. It was definitely a long book. I love adventures. It was fantastic. It made me actually think about the movie Aladdin. I didn't realize about Aladdin being that. So that's really been fun. I am reading right now, Jess, the movie's out, but I've never read Wuthering Heights. Have you ever read that?
I don't think I read it, and I want to do the same. I want to read it and watch it.
I'm struggling with it, and I messaged chat, and it was like, yep, that's how you should feel. So I was like, I don't know how I like this, but
that reminds me of a couple things. Reminds me of a few books. Okay, so I read Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld.
Oh yeah, that's always been on my queue.
It was on our on Libby, and it is an adaptation of
what was
Pride and
that
Prejudice. And
how was it?
I forgot. So you know how if you're on Libby, sometimes you're waiting a long time for a book. And so I saw that and I go, oh, that sounds fun. And then I totally forgot that it was an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. And then I was reading it. I was like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden the guy's name was Darcy. And then I like look up the book and I'm like, because it's modern day, but this mother has 5 daughters and she's obsessed with them getting married. And just in today's world, you're like, dude, why is the mom obsessed with them being married? This is ridiculous. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is a Pride and Prejudice thing. And so they had book club questions at the end. So I'd love for someone to read it because I have a lot to say about that book. So when I saw it through that lens, I embraced it more and that was fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
But talking about reading and watching, you and I we had people we meet on vacation on our queue for a long time. So you watched the movie, didn't read the book.
Yes.
Okay, so I read the book, and so you talk about slow burn romance. I was like, I think I like Fast and Furious romance or something because I was like, come on. You know, when Harry met Sally situation of the book, of the friends.
Yeah.
But it was like, I felt like we went on and on and on. I think that was the first Emily Henry book I read, and now I'm reading her
Big Beautiful Life.
Yeah, what's that? Big Beautiful Life? Okay, I'm reading that. So the movie was really cute because you don't have to, I felt like the book was really long for a romance. And so I was like, come on, when are we going to like get together, guys? So on the book, but it was a really, really enjoyable book and it goes back and forth, present day, different times. So, but I thought it was a really cute movie. So I would encourage you to watch the movie on Netflix, The People We Meet on Vacation.
I love that. One of the other books that I absolutely love, Jess, and this will probably be the last one that I'll talk about, was called Red Clay. So February is...
It's Black History Month.
Black History Month, sorry. And so I was recommended to read a book based on maybe whether it's about like African Americans or an author, whatever. It was called Red Clay. And it was so good. It was a multi-generational saga, historical fiction set in the South during slavery. And the main characters were slaves. And it was about their life. And again, multi-generational. So what was really cool about it was it's like family that survived slavery and like how they evolved in
Mm-hmm.
their life. And so it
Yeah.
starts in like the 1800s and it ends in like a
Yeah.
1950,
Yeah.
1960 vibe. So it's sort of like
Yeah.
right leading up to civil rights movement. It
Mm-hmm.
was fantastic. I don't like books that are too much oppression and too much struggle. And it really showed there's some humanity with slave owners. Not everybody, because like the Help, I loved the Help, but the Help was like very much
Oh, I
about
loved The
the,
Help.
it was that vibe,
It's too
but it was,
upsetting for you
it
to
was,
hear the hate or what?
yeah, sort of. I mean, there's hate in this too, but like
Yeah.
having it be from the point of view of the slaves basically as the main
Yeah.
characters and how they supported each other to get through it, and then
Yeah.
how they eventually became, successful people in their own struggles in their own way. It was really cool because the Help is sort of like keeping people down in some way. Like, yeah, you're kind of like having a relationship with them, but like you never really were doing much to sort of like,
That's what you felt in The Help?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
God. I felt differently. Like there are so many ways we can resist and rebel
Yeah, that's
on The
true. That's
Help,
true. And I did
you know?
love that story. It was a really
Yeah.
beautiful story. So this one gave the same vibes. I had never heard of Red Clay. It's not a bestseller in any way.
Yeah.
It's also been fun to find those books off the beaten path because A, they're either cheap on half price bookstores, or B, they're cheap ebooks. They're easy to get in the
Yeah.
library. So like
Yeah.
everyone jumps to these like bestsellers, and we forget about like what were the bestsellers 5 years ago. Those are probably really
Yeah.
great books.
Yeah.
So my little soapbox on that.
My book is also book of the month, and it is Keeper of Lost Children. I think you will love it. It's Sadiqa Johnson, and she also wrote, and I don't know if you had read this, but she does historical fiction, so you'd love it. She did The Yellow Wife, and she wrote The House of
Okay.
Eve, and The House of
Okay.
Eve was a Reese book club book.
Book club. Mm-hmm.
And she also wrote Fallen Grace. She wrote a lot of books. And then there was Me. Maybe I read that. Now I got to go back. Anyway, so this one is Keeper of Lost Children by Sadiqa Johnson. So good. I did like you where you geek out and then you go research everything. And so there is a woman. It is based on a real life woman who was a Black American woman whose husband was stationed in Germany in 1951. These nuns came up to her, and there were all of these mixed race children because from Black American soldiers who came over and fought in war and had children. And the mothers were shunned from their community. They couldn't get jobs. And so there were all these mixed race children that she created what she called the Brown Baby Plan. And she tried to get all of these children adopted by American families and also Black
Hmm.
American military families. And she ended up getting 500 children adopted, but there were 4,800 children, mixed race children, um, as a product of relations with European women and Black soldiers. I'm not saying all of them were adopted or, sent to, orphanages. And so it follows a girl who always kind of questioned her heritage, and she tries to learn about
That
this.
sounds
And so,
really interesting.
so good. It was hard for me because there was a lot of the characters experience some hatred and racism, and that's always so hard, but hello, it's real and happening. And so what was crazy is I listened to the author's note at the end of the book. I listened to this book, an audiobook, and she was saying where she, like, what was fact and what she made up and like where she got the ideas from. And there was this scene. I stopped reading the book for 3 days because I was so upset by it, but the character is a young 15-year-old Black girl in a predominantly white school. And in the locker room, they grab her and push her against the thing, and they like take her clothes off, and they say, "Who will buy this at the auction?" And they act like it's a slave auction. And she said, "I got that scene because of a 2022 locker room incident that happened in a high school in the United States." And I was like, what? I thought she was going to say that happened in 1962.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah.
There was a high school student held a mock slave auction in a California high school in 2022.
Oh my God.
Yes. So anyway, that was I thought that was a really great book, and now I want to read all of her books. I loved her writing. I loved it so much. I want to read. I always like Reese's book club books. So I would like to read The House of Eve, and I would really like to read Yellow Wife, and they have very, very, very high ratings on Goodreads.
Cool. I
So
need to try out that author. That sounds really great. I
yes,
love great writing for sure. And that goes back to Emily Bronte and Wuthering Heights, which is so tough that I feel like if I would have read that in high school, I might have gotten an 1100 on my SAT because the vocabulary in that book is like insanity. Pure. And it's like 50% of the writing are like words that I don't use that are really smart words.
Mm.
So
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
interesting.
I'm reading the ebook. So I'm like constantly looking up what words mean.
Maybe
And then
maybe I'll listen to that one.
today I was like, do they have a vocabulary list for Wuthering Heights? And
Yeah.
I was like looking up. There's a ton of like, because it's usually a school. It could be
Yeah.
a school assigned book anyway.
The last thing I want to say, because I caught the end of this news blip on NPR, and the woman was talking about Wuthering Heights playlist. And so Spotify is so known for its playlists, right?
Yeah.
So they were talking about when you're reading a book, look up the playlist. And she goes like, go back and look at the Twilight series, and all these people made playlists. And so when you're reading a book, look up the playlist. And I'm like, that is so
You
cool.
know what's interesting about that is reading the book of Theo of Golden, Alan Levi, the author. He shared in his interview that he actually listened to different classical music during different chapters.
Yeah.
And how his writing in different points of the book are actually a reflection of the music he was listening to. So that is really cool to think about music tied to what you're reading.
Yes.
I love that.
And before I forget too, I'm reading Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal. And so if you liked the books, The Body Keeps a Score, What Happened to You, books on trauma and how trauma impact our health to this day. I know you know who Dr. Gabor Mate is, Kelly. He's a Canadian doctor. I know you know who he is. He's been on Mel Robbins and all that stuff. But anyway, just about how trauma impacts our health. And it's so good, but heavy information. And so I got to take a little snippet, but it's really, really good. And I'm listening to it. And so if you like those type of books, I highly recommend that. So if you guys want to follow us, see what we're up to, all the fun things we're doing, you can check us out at social media at Chasing Brighter.
And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. We have a really fun giveaway, I guess, for lack of a better word, for the month of March, where we are offering a really fun organizational style quiz. So you've got to sign up for a newsletter to do that. So head to chasingbrighter.com. You can sign up for it on the landing page or /newsletter. We'll take you there too.